welcome. Thank you for coming. So I'm going to be talking about human geography and planning. The master I started in September 2009. And I'm mainly going to be talking about my personal experience, so not any PhD project, just the classes I had so far. So first, I'll talk a little bit about why human geography and planning is interesting for researchers at the Faculty of Architecture and also designers. And then I'll explain how I ended up in Utrecht. Then I'll explain the courses that I've had so far, and I'd like to finish with a short explanation on my personal interpretations on what a researcher and a designer is and what the relationships between them are. And yeah, I'd like to have a discussion about that to see what you think. And I'd like to stress that this is mainly my personal interpretations from the knowledge that I had from the Faculty of Architecture and from human geography and planning. It's not per se the viewpoint of human geography as a research field, because they have their own discussions about this. Okay, so first, why is human geography and planning important to consider? Well, maybe first I should explain what human geography and planning exactly is. My teacher explains this as everything that's related to the material basis of life, and also explained as research on the urbanized or urbanizing world. Architects in this research field are one of the human actors which influence space, and I think this is one of the differences between research and architecture, because I think in architecture we focus mainly on the architect themselves and the research that's related, like design. But I think in some cases the research actually touches upon the topics that they research in human geography and planning. I think one of the most important topics that is similar in both research fields is space, what it exactly is and how you can manipulate it. And I think in this case it would be very useful to exchange literature on both research fields. I think I went to the IFU conference a couple of months ago, and I noticed that there were a couple of topics that were touched that are not, where the literature in human geography was not used, and where I think it would have been very useful. So that's why I'm having this introduction, to see if you can use something from the topics that I've learned. So how did I end up in Utrecht from my research graduation project here in architecture? Well, this was my project. I researched tourism in a cultural and ecological sensitive area in the southwest of China. I created a master plan for it and I enjoyed the project very much, but afterwards I did figure out that I didn't want to become a designer. I would rather be the person who looks before the design and communicates the research. So I figured that I had to find a specialization in some kind of topic, and I was pointed at human geography as a field of, as a study, to see if that was perhaps something that I could get that specialization with. I then went to Minneapolis last April to the National Planning Conference from the American Planning Association, and I was introduced to many different fields of planning. After this conference I knew for sure I wanted to stay in planning, because I like the field very much, very social and very nice people. And I also figured a couple of interesting research areas, tourism and hazard mitigation. But and afterwards I decided to look further into the masters of Utrecht and Amsterdam. I finally enrolled in Utrecht, and I got accepted on the condition that I had to make up my deficiencies. I had deficiencies in SPSS, writing, and in GIS. And actually this condition is not uncommon, because most of my classmates actually are not from a human geography background. I think more than 50% has a different kind of background. So I have now been in the program for half a year, and these were my classes for the first half year. In the first period you have 4 electives, and I chose mobilizing persons, places and spaces, or mobilizing in short, and writing for scientific publication. And in the second period we had 2 mandatory classes, research frontiers and academic competences. Academic competences is you get English and presentation skills, those kind of things, more practical side of research. So my first class was mobilizing. This class consisted of lectures and assignments. We had an exam and an essay and a presentation. These were the different topics that we touched upon. They are mainly grand theories that are related to the immaterial side of human geography, because they research material and immaterial. And immaterial are the forces that are carried out upon the material. I think these theories are very useful for designers. I found them very interesting, but they are still very abstract, and it's hard to translate them to practical application. Relational planning is one of the areas where Patsy Healy, from whom we read a lot of articles, is actually very active in trying to get this practical application realized. Another thing that was very interesting was the position of the architect. As I explained, it's not the main actor, but one of the actors that influences space. I think this becomes very clear by the example of Lefebvre, the trialectics of space. His theory is that you have three types of space: conceived space, perceived space, and lived space. Conceived space is a space as it is created by architects and policymakers, or in general professionals. Perceived space is the space that is already present, socio-economic processes, the material city that's already there. And the lived space are the user's experiences. For example, when you visit a city, you're unaware of it, you use a map, you will have a certain way that you experience the city, which is different from someone who looks, for example, to Google Maps to search for where they want to go. And I think especially this third space is very interesting, because I didn't use it a lot when I was here at architecture, but I think it's very important if you want to see if your design is actually working for your research. And the FAF is also something I researched for my essay that I wrote for writing for scientific publication. This class was aimed at explaining to us what you have to do and the processes and the rules that are involved with getting a scientific article published. I personally wrote about hazard mitigation. We were allowed to pick whatever topic we liked. And I wrote about the redevelopment plans of New Orleans. In this, I analyzed those redevelopment plans according to the spaces of Lefebvre. And I think that my conclusion was that the ideas and patterns that are already present are very relevant for making those redevelopment plans work. And they are involved in the plans, but they are not used as a way to see if it's actually working. Another topic which was very important was scientific relevance. You can see here the different topics that we discussed in the class. Scientific relevance, I think, is one of the nicest things that I learned in the class. It actually means that you look for a research gap upon which research is based. You need this in order to get your article published or to get a grant, because if it's not an original contribution to the science, then it will be dismissed or at least not published. I think it's also a great tool for yourself to see if you have considered all the literature of all relevant fields, and also if you actually have an original topic, because I think one of the difficulties as designers turning to research is that in design we use a lot of personal interpretation to get to a certain result, and in research it is more about